is it helpful to constantly transpose Weimar Germany on what we're going through today? Because you see it so many times.
Yes,
and you certainly see it on social media, people walking around with wheelbarrows full of notes, you know, and they say, we're going to have hyperinflation. In fact, worse, we're going to be Zimbabwe.
Well, it doesn't hurt to keep it in mind,
Yeah.
but also it's relevant because if you'd analyze the Weimar period, you'd be aware that this was a policy decision.
Right.
It was the policy makers, it was the central bank deciding to do this. And so that is something we should always keep in mind, that central banks and other central planners and governments and policy makers, they make those policies and sometimes they lead to disastrous outcomes. That's why, of course, we need the scrutiny, and that's why it's welcome that the House of Lords is
actually addressing it,
examining what central banks are doing and those policies. We always need that scrutiny because even in the Weimar period, it was a policy decision. It was like, suddenly hyperinflation happened by accident. No,
it was man-made and there was a rationale.
That's right, and that, of course, is certainly the relevant part we should look at. But otherwise, I don't think the Weimar era is really the great comparison, because what really happened last year, 2020, from March onwards, is something that's much more akin to Stalinist, Soviet Union type scenarios. That's what we need to compare it to.
Why? Because it's so centrally planned?
Well, what we have is massive intervention by the government in the economy by introducing restrictions on so many parts of the economy as we've never seen before in the UK.
Ironic from a free market.
Absolutely. It's never been done before ever in the UK. There's other countries where it has been done before, like Russia, Soviet Union, Germany, East Germany, and also earlier periods in Germany. So in other countries there are precedents, but in the UK it is unprecedented, and we have to compare it to Stalinist, Soviet Union type of drastic across-the-board interventions, and then think about inflation.
Right.
Because that is a different scenario. Namely, the central planners will introduce all sorts of further central planning measures if they want to, if inflation becomes a problem. The parallels are there. Queues, big queues, well, that's also what they had in the central planning Soviet Union, big queues everywhere. People not allowed to do certain trades because the government is forbidding them. Well, go to Stalinist Soviet Union.
Price controls.
And so that's the next one I was going to say, price controls, you see, it comes next. Of course, as the COVID agenda smoothly morphs into the climate change prevention agenda, and we've got these 2030 targets for all sorts of things, CO2 emissions, we have a problem whereby we're supposed to switch all the cars to electric cars, but the electricity supply in the world is not large enough to do this.
Right.
Well, that's not a problem.
Why?
If you look at the right comparison, and it's not Weimar Germany, it is Stalinist type Soviet Union. In the Soviet Union, they had cars, but not everyone had cars.
Exactly.
If you were a member of the Politburo and the party cadre, then you had a car.
You paint
If you were an ordinary person, well, public transport is good enough for you, isn't it?